to another edition of The Preview. I'm Adam Kulikowski. I'm your host, the one feeding all the questions to our expert, Andy Shea. On tap in this week's edition, we'll break down Central Dolphins' game against CD East, Steel High's battle against the Bulldogs of Big Spring, and State College's road trip to Harrisburg. Welcome, Mr. Shea. How are you today?
I'm doing good. A good schedule for week 9. Some marquee games to focus on. It's that time of year, right? It's where the rubber meets the road. So
yes,
there's high stakes games or intriguing matchups, but then now you really can talk playoff implications and there's more than just trying to get a win week to week on the table. And that's always the last 2 weeks are always the best of the entire season. That's just my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. I always look forward to the last 2-3 weeks of the season where we're really getting into who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. So I know you take a long time to look at the district rankings. We talked about this earlier in the previous episode. I think you looked this week though. Did you look this week?
I did. So I did take my first official peek, and digested them. So I look at them different than everybody else. I look at the teams, I look at the numbers of qualifiers. So if you start from 1A through 6A, it's 2, 4, 8 in 3A, 10 in 4A, 14 in 5A, and then 8 in 6A. So I look at the bubble teams is where I go first. Who's on the bubble? Who's kind of getting in, and who do they have left to play, and can they get in, and what's their winning percentage? So I look at that. And so if you say, well, what stood out to me was West Perry's going to make the playoffs, and that's a good thing. That's really cool for them. And it appears, despite their record and their struggles this year, that Middletown could be in there as well. And I think another thing that grabbed me was the Central Dolphins CD East game, which we're going to talk about. I think the winner secures themselves a home playoff game guaranteed. That's just what I thought. I look at opponents' winning percentages, their OPW, and see whose schedule stinks, whose schedule doesn't, who played a non-conference that mattered. Is it helping them or hurting them? And the last little thing that grabbed me this year is in Class 2A is Trinity. They're not above the yellow line right now. If they get in, you don't want to play them. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. And even I know they have 2 tough games left, but if they find a way to get in and get that 4th spot, you don't want to play them. I don't care who you are as a number 1 seed and what your record is. You just will not want to play that team. So that was my initial look at the power rankings.
Yeah. And Trinity, really, I agree with you, upsetting DeLone Catholic at the beginning of the season, almost knocking off Steel High a little earlier this year. They're definitely a dangerous team that could shake things up.
Yeah, they were in a shootout with Big Spring last week. I mean, yes. They were in that game. They lost to Lower Dauphin by 6. They lost, by a touchdown. They lost Steel High, and they got caught from behind by Steel High and lost that game by 6. They were in the game, and it's a couple 2-3 plays here and there, and they could be picturing. They got blown out by Boiling Springs. That's their only game where they were not literally had a chance to win the game. So what are they, 3-4, right? They could easily be 5-2 or 4-3 easily, very easily. So, that's a team to pay attention to.
Yes. Next 2 weeks are going to be fantastic, but let's get started on our week 9 previews. First up, we're heading to this Speedway where Central Dauphin takes on CD East. Andy, help us break down this game.
So for me, this game is what gives, right? What's gonna give? CD has offense, right? They've got plenty of it. CD East is very good defensively. So how is that matchup going to shake out? Also, though, something tells me that the CD East offense versus the CD defense, that might decide this game. I have a sneaky suspicion that for all of the attention that should be paid to CD's offense and CD's defense, that's the other sides of the ball for each team that might actually decide this one. The Rams, they've pulled off some magic, right, in back-to-back weeks to win games. The quarterback position, Max Mosey against his secondary, to me, that's a really interesting matchup. I think CD's secondary is good. They roll their coverages. They change their coverages. They do some very different things. Max is a legit dual threat. And can the CD East defense make CD's offense one-dimensional? So The last thing I'll say about this game is I expect some major momentum swings. Like, I mean, big ones. Like, I think it's going to definitely be a roller coaster game, like a 14-point run here, followed by a 14 or 17-point run there. I just think that is going to be what this game is all about. And if it isn't, good for them.
And Andy, we caught up with Max Mosey earlier this week. So check out our latest edition of the Spotlight on fourthdownmagazine.com. Andy, what's the key for each one of these two teams to get the win?
Yeah, Central Dauphin, it's Max Mosey in the offense, like I alluded to. They have to get theirs. And for CDs, it's their defense. Don't let Mosey and that CD offense eat. That's literally the keys to the football game.
Mm-hmm. And Andy, Central Dauphin right now is number 3 in the 6A field. CD East right now in the power rankings, number 5. So both of those teams firmly in the playoff picture right now. Possible home game for both of those teams, depending on this matchup.
Yeah. So who do I think is going to win this game, right? Like, do you want to know?
Next question up.
CD's
won my thunder.
CD's won 5 straight. Like, I can't get into the power rating numbers and stuff. I'm like, wah, 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 Charlie Brown's teacher. But you absolutely should be using it. It just goes in one old ear and out the other old ear. But so Central Dolphins won 5 straight. They won 4 in a row since that 2-week COVID shutdown they had. The last 2, like I mentioned, they've been higher wire acts. Having said that, I'm taking the Panthers. They're not as explosive as Central Dauphin, but I think the Panthers have been more structurally consistent as a football team. I think when the dust settles in this game, and like I said, I think there's going to be some high wire to it. I think the fact that Central Dauphin East has been a little more structurally settled, complementary wise on both sides of the ball, I think that shows up. If Max Mosey gets rolling in this game, CD's 100% going to win though.
I like your bet hedge there, Andy.
It's a bet hedge, but I'm definitely going to pick the Panthers. I'm going to pick the Panthers here, and I'm going to pick the Panthers in my prediction.
Okay, let's keep moving there. This is a big game in the Capital Division. With that title still up for grabs in the final 2 weeks, Steel High will roll into Newville Friday night to take on the Big Spring Bulldogs. Tons to love about this matchup. Andy, break it down for us.
Yeah, so there might be a few points in this one, just a few. I mean, if this turns into a defensive battle, then absolutely color me shocked. Steel High and that combustible offense, they're facing a secondary that can be had. That's just, there's no other way around it. I saw Big Spring in person, and I'm like, the clear weakest link on either side of the ball for them is their secondary can be had. But on the flip side, Big Spring, when humming along and pounding the rock and hitting those deep shots, they can be pretty combustible on offense as well. And the way they do it is going to require some sort of, a little bit of discipline by the Rollers defensively. I fully expect both quarterbacks, Irby for Steel High and Eisenberg for Big Spring. I expect them both to have big days and to keep pressure on the opposing defenses for all 48 minutes. I really think that's the kind of game it's going to be. The hidden key for me in this one is the run game. Both of them can do it. Who can do it better and really open up the field in the passing game? So I hate to say this, but I'm sorry. I think both defenses might be in for a pretty long night.
If you like offense, it'll be a great game to see.
I think it could be, yeah.
Just a note on the District 3 power rankings. Big Spring right now, number 8 in the 10-team field in 4A. Steel High firmly the number 1 seed in single A.
Yeah.
Andy, Steel High still your favorite though in this Capital Division?
They are. I will say yes now. Somebody has to take them down. So I was thinking maybe no a couple weeks ago, but today it is a YES 100% yes.
All right. Give us your prediction on this game.
So I'm going to take Steel High, but I think it requires something in the 40s to win this game. I really do. 42, 47. I just have a hard time figuring somebody scoring 24, 26, or 27 points and winning this football game. I just really don't see that happening.
Yeah. Okay, let's hit one more game before we get out. State College
do it.
To Severance Field on Saturday to take on Harrisburg. Andy, what should we expect?
Yeah, so I think this game is all about Harrisburg, right? State College comes in here struggling, and it's been a really long while since I can kind of remember State College struggling at sort of this level. And they're facing a Harrisburg team that is impressive on many levels, and I'm going to tell you why. Because what stands out to me is how comfortable and confident they are in their own skin. Like Kyle Williams Jr. is an explosive athlete, and they find him many different ways and in a variety of ways, not just, through different types of pass routes and different level of passes and the way they use him in the run game. They find ways to get him the ball, which he needs to be fed the rock on a really consistent basis. Up front, offensively, they're not flashy, but they're almost numbingly consistent. And you just watch them work and you're like, yeah, are they really any good? But then after you watch them for like 2.5 quarters, you're like, no, they're not like really good eye popping. They're just really good next level below the surface. And there's a lot to be said for that. And the quarterbacks, juniors Kyle Lewis and freshman Sean Lee, right? They both play quarterback for him. They've thrown for a very quiet 1,200 yards, and it has been quiet and an efficient 1,200. But did you know, Adam, that the two of them combined are completing 68% of their passes this season? 68%. That is a
Not too
difference.
shabby.
That's a difference-making number for any high school football team. And I love running back Mekhi Hopkins. He's just a bull in a china shop with really good feet. And he's a large human being. I think he makes defensive backs make like life choice decisions at times if he's rolling downhill. And he averages, 5 yards a carry, and he's just not any fun or very easy to get to the ground. The defense, they give up a few points here and there on defense, right? But they answer the bell in those tight spots when it is asked of them. And I really like that kind of defense. Like, okay, you can get some, but in a tight spot, in a really sticky situation, they know how to answer the bell. They get caught every now and then, but they don't make it easy for the opposing offense. So it's almost like it's like Novocaine. Like it's just numbing what Harrisburg does to you.
Andy, give us your prediction on this game.
So State College has lost 3 of its last 4, and they only win in that stretch was a come from behind overtime win against Cumberland Valley that they sort of had to pull the rabbit out of the hat to win. They're struggling. And when you walk into Severance Field trying to sort of right a ship, that generally does not end very well. I mean, Harrisburg, can you rattle or shake this team? I haven't seen it. They might be few in numbers, but man, they are built on a really solid foundation, and they don't stray outside that box, and they don't care to. So I will pick the Cougars against a team covering the Severance, trying to right a ship that 9 times out of 10, that does not end well at all.
Okay, Andy, thank you so much for your expertise. That's it for this edition of the preview. Get out to see one of these games or another on the slate. Support your local teams and check us out on fourthdownmagazine.com for all of our weekly content. See ya.
See ya.